Okay, here we go. We're gonna go. We're gonna go. I mean, we're gonna come. Hello, hello. There they are. Okay, I'm gonna do the hellos fast. I have to
Good
be.
morning.
Oh, come on. Oh, I even got a good more. All right, that's a triple. That is a.
Morning.
Oh my God. Oh, they're like you're in it to win it. Everybody. Oh, and there she. All right, awesome. I'm not gonna get. I'm gonna hold myself back. If I'm not careful, I'm gonna get sentimental. All right, wait. So good morning, Gabriella. Good morning, Lunar on the waning crescent. Good, the almost, yes, the almost new. Okay, good morning, Sydney. Good morning, Effie. Good morning, Teresa Schmidt. Good morning, Chris, Christopher. Um, I'm just doing yeah, okay. I'm gonna do this fast, and I'm doing the chat now. That's yeah. Good morning, Angelina. Good morning, Teresa Double. Good morning, Nadine. Good morning, Effie Double. Good morning, Jean. Good morning, Josh Dub. No, good morning, Josh. Sorry. Good morning, Jocelyn. Hold on. Wait, Jocelyn is usually okay. Good morning, Lunar, double, triple. Um, good morning, Sydney, double. Good morning, Chris, with the quintuple G and the triple. Okay. Good morning, Genesis. Good morning, Chanel. Okay. Also, okay. Oh, good morning, Zibo. Sorry. Good morning, Zibo. Oh, and Mohammed. Did I say with the double? Well, not with the double, but okay, okay. Um, so in a way, all right, no, seriously, I have to be careful because I could get sentimental. But we have, oh, and there's Rebecca. We have loose ends, well, little loose ends. We have logistics to be clarified, and then, but then we do have like a little bit of physics that I do want to end with. Good morning, Mohammed. Okay. Let me, so please forgive. Like, so first of all, I'm watching the clock. I do get sentiment. You have been, I I want the grades to work out for like I want you to end up with a feeling of satisfaction and pride and well-deserved relief. Um, so again, so I'm rooting for all of you. I've really, really enjoyed being with you. I'm very much hoping and looking forward to seeing many of you, if not all of you, next semester. And I think in many, many cases, that would be in person in some combination or another. But no matter what, I'm very much looking forward to seeing you next semester. And that's good because then I don't have to worry about saying goodbye in too deep of a way right now. Otherwise, I would. But also, my goal is right now that we all come back next semester feeling refreshed and in command of the material that we need to move on to the next course, and feeling like we all did okay and we all still, feel okay about one another and all that. Believe me, all those goals are just as important to me as to you. Um, and none of that is, guaranteed until we get through this week. We all have to do our part to get through this week, of course. Um, wait a minute, wait a minute. One thing to make clear again, because there's been some question from students not at John Jay, so maybe they're reading different. My impression, very quickly too, and if I'm wrong about this, just I don't know, tell me in the private chat or send me a text or something. My belief, what was supposed to have been posted, is that Monday, wait, sorry, that one of the sections of 204, I don't remember the numbers, but one of the sections of 204 next semester is supposed to be a double period in person on Mondays. That would be, I believe, excuse me, no. That would be not a 10:50 to 1:30. That's a double period in person on Mondays. Another different section is supposed to be in person on Mondays, 9:25 to 10:40, and then online synchronous Wednesdays, 9:25 to 10:40. That's what it's supposed. So again, I can't have a discussion about it now. But if that's and then there's a third section that's fully online synchronous, just like this, like Zoom, right? That's I guess Monday and Wednesday 3:05. No, I don't even remember. No, like 12:50. I'm saying something wrong, but something is wrong. Oh no, maybe it's Tuesday and Thursday. Anyway, that there's a third section that's fully online synchronous, but the other two, it should be clear. Like one of them is fully in person double period, and one of them is half and half in person, but online synchronous, i.e., the two time slots still have to be carved out in your schedule. So I hope that is what was posted. I have a little worry about that right now that I got some. So let me know on the side if you have a different impression or if you think you registered for something different from that or something. Okay, that's that. So I'm looking forward to seeing you next semester. Now as far as closing down this ship of this semester, um, I still have to believe me. I spend all this week like dealing with your final exams and tallying up all these points that I still owe you from other points this, back homeworks that haven't been given back yet, or back revisions that I haven't. And I know there are. Like, if you think you've given me stuff that you haven't gotten back, you're probably right. You can check with me, but it's not personal to you and it's not lost. It's all there, and you'll get all those points. And if you've just handed in stuff to me in the last couple of days to catch up, you're not going to get feedback on any of that, but you'll get the points. And I should be clear again, if you just handed in some old things in the last couple of days, things that you never handed in before, I'm taking them. You'll get some credit for them. That is true, but not feedback and not full credit. I mean, if it's the first time you handed in something that was due, weeks ago, yes, you'll get something for that, but not full credit. I hope that's clear. And not feet. So this week I'm just, gathering up all the points that I can for you. Any points that I find, yes, I'm happy for you to have that are legitimate. Happy to have them add to your average. Again, let me make clear also. So right now I'm just trying to tie up the loose ends or make the end game clear if it's not already. And I will say, if you have questions about this at this point, feel free to reach out by text or email, but not in the middle of class. Yeah. So the other thing about that, about like loose ends, is if I didn't already make clear, here's how it works. And I'm going to talk about the final exam in a minute. Believe me, I am. I don't remember what I've told you, but I'm going to remind you or clarify things about the final exam in like 2 minutes. But just to go back, just to leap ahead for a moment, how it works for me, and this would be the same, with Physics 204, all your final grades are due to CUNY first, at 11 o'clock p.m. It's either December 28th or December 29th. I can never remember, but it's one of those. It's after Christmas, but it's before New Year's. And you can look it up. One of those two nights, December 28th or 29th, when the grades are due from me to CUNY first, that is generally when I post them to CUNY first. I'm never late. One time I was late and I've paid for it ever since. So I won't be late, but I will be right up until the last minute with them. Your grades will not be posted until the deadline. However, what you will, so please, so just like give me space and time to like do all that stuff until then. However, if I didn't tell you this last week, and I feel like maybe I did not, you will, and wait, I'm looking into, oh, and I'm looking at, hold on, wait, okay, I will get to the chat and I see, wait, they do, okay, I see the chat. Hey, give me 1 second. Okay, I am here to address those things. Um, are there, okay. And also let me switch the view so you can, um, okay, about grades. So I'm going backwards. In terms of final grades, you will get from me an email like about a day before, about approximately 24 hours before the grades are due to CUNY first. The email will tell you that an Excel spreadsheet, that a Google Sheet is about to come out to Google Classroom. The Google Sheet will have all of the grading data for everybody for the whole class without any names on it. And it won't be in alphabetical order. All the names will be redacted, but all the grading data will be there. You will be told in an email that that's about to happen, and you will be given a row number in your email. The row number is like literally the number of the row that is you, and literally like don't count like whatever the row number, if you whatever you'll see. But so it'll say a grading sheet is about to come out. Find your row in the grading sheet. That will be all of your points, all with all the formulas and everything like that. And then like a final number, and will be the data from your final exam. Well, not the data, but the grades from your final exam. And average with your midterm and all of that. And it'll all be clear, and it'll be clear that the exact same method of math is used for everybody in the room. The method that I know is still a little bit unclear to some of you because it's an unusual grading system, but it'll be clear in that sheet, and it'll be and you'll note to self it's the same system that will be used in 204 when you have me next semester. Okay. And please understand again that the whole system, as a little bit complicated as it is designed to allow more than one way to get an A. That doesn't mean everybody's getting an A. It does not mean that everybody's getting an A, but it does mean that it's possible to get an A even if you're not a good exam taker, basically. So you will see all the grading data and your final grade and how it was computed about 24 hours before it's posted to CUNY First. That is your opportunity then. If you have a concern or something's confusing or something, not a concern with the whole system, but a concern of how the system was applied to you, then you can politely reach out to me at that time and say, I'm concerned, I respectfully, I don't understand. I thought I gave you this, but it says I didn't give you that or whatever. And then we will try to work it out. Believe me, I make mistakes. If you respectfully ask me about the possibility of a mistake, I will root for you to be right and for me to be wrong. If it's a mistake that would then benefit you and like make your grade higher, I'm all for it. So I'm just telling you that now. We're not in a fight. Like really, we're not in a fight now, and we won't be in a fight then. If you approach it that way, if you're like, I think there might be. Now it's possible you made a mistake too, right? So just approach it from that level of like, I'm confused about something. Could you please clarify? If I see that I made an error, I will change it and I will make your grade better and I'll be happy about it. But if I'm like, no, actually, I think you're not understanding, like that's not how it works, blah, 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 we will, right? In the worst case scenario, if it does not get resolved, if we can't resolve it before the grades go to CUNY First, I have to submit all the grades at once. I cannot submit any unless I'm ready to submit all. So if there is some real outstanding, real weird confusion or something between you and me at that point, you'll get an incomplete, meaning in my mind, incomplete understanding of what's going on, like incomplete resolution on their grade. And then we will resolve it afterwards. And let me tell you right now, again, if you've never gotten an incomplete before, an incomplete literally just, I mean, it's meant to be for medical reasons. I don't use them casually, but what an incomplete means is we're not done yet with this person. Something still has to happen, and it doesn't affect your transcript or your life in any adverse way. The whole point of an incomplete is the minute there is a grade, the grade substitutes in for it could be an A, could be a B, whatever. The grade substitutes in for the incomplete. And then everybody moves on with their life, and that's what goes on the transcript. And there was never, okay, so an incomplete is like a pause. I can do that for a person or two people or something if there's really, I'm in an exceptional case, if there's like really an unresolved issue that we still haven't figured out, if we're both being respectful to each other and both rooting for each other, then I can do that and put everybody else's grades in. But okay, I'm just explaining all this so that you do have an opportunity at the end, like right before grades are posted, to know exactly what happened and to have a moment, to have a voice and say like, wait, okay, and that's on purpose. Hopefully, for most of you, I don't think there's going to be unpleasant surprises or shocks or anything like that. I mean, I know nobody knows exactly where they are because the grading system is complicated that way. So I get it, but I think anyway. All right, so that's how that works. I'm going to go on. I'm going to now. I want to get to like the final, but wait. First of all, can you just give me an electronic hand or something if that basic idea makes sense, or if you get? Thank you, Gabriella. That's one. Thank you, Shibo. Thank you. Oh, that's a lot. Okay. Great. Awesome. Wow. Okay. Awesome. Now, I want to get to the issue of the final exam for sure. But now there's one thing I'm looking in the private chat. it says the final exam. So there's two announcements that say different dates. If that's true, someone's saying in the private chat that two different announcements say different dates. If that's true, I apologize, and let's correct that right now. I didn't think that was the case. What I believe is the answer is that, so I'll say this and then you guys check. The person who wrote that, please check again in a second, or anybody else. This is what I think it says in Google Class, or is meant to say. Oh, it's two different posts. Okay, I see. Is it two different? Well, what I'm trying, all right, I'll look at the posting in a second. What it's meant to be trying to say is that the exam is due, like you have to return the exam to me at 12 by 12:30 p.m. this Wednesday. Like noon 30 p.m. in 2 days is when you have to submit it to me. And the reason for that is because technically your final exam slot is like 10:30 to 12:30 this Wednesday, based on when this class meets. But you're not coming to school to take, like, it's not an in-class exam. You don't have to come to school or anything like that. But just so that I can honor your schedule and like not be in conflict with Orgo and things like that, your exam is due it's due at 12:30 p.m. Wednesday. This is what I'm trying to say. Tell me again in a second. So it's due 12:30 p.m. Wednesday. However, it's actually a take-home exam that you do, just like the last one, that you do open universe on your own time in your own way. Therefore, what I'm trying to say is that I will post it by 12:30 today. Like, in other words, like an hour and a half after this class. So you have 2 days to do it. So what it's trying to say is that it'll be posted and available to you in, like, 2 hours and 45 minutes from now. And then you have 2 days to do it. Now, let's pause on there for a second. Person who's writing me, does it say something different or anybody else? Is that what that's what it should say? Is that what it says or no? I mean, is that the class or just best? Well, I'll look at right now if that's what. But that's what I'm.
Professor,
Oh, yeah, I'm listening. Okay, yeah.
on the last year's mid final exam thing, I think it says the correct date, like Wednesday. It says 11:59 p.m., but it's like we know 12:30.
On the wait, hold on. I mean, thank you, Gary. Wait a minute, wait a
Hmm.
minute. On the last, anything that was about last year. Hold on. Anything that was last year was rules for like
Yeah, I
that's.
didn't see anything for the one that we're taking now though. Maybe I missed it.
Oh well, right. Well, uh, uh, oh, wait. I'm a little right. Any posting that was about last year's exam is there. Like, yeah, don't follow like the logistical rules about whatever it says about last year's exam. Like that, it's just the purpose of those is so that you see the documents, uh, so that you get an idea of the material. But wait, let me just announcement refinal exam. Hold on a second. The the only logistics that and when I post this exam in a couple hours, it will be clear in the rules of the posting for this that it's due in 2 days. I'm looking, but the announcement, I think you guys, right? There was an announcement posted December 8th. Well, here, I guess I'll screen share this. Hold on a second. Hold on. I do, and I'm not trying to argue it. Oh, no bad. Like wait. Um, yeah, okay. I'm gonna screen share for a second. Right. Any other dates or anything that's in any old final exam that I posted, that's to like help you prepare. But right, the logistics would no longer be relevant. The thing that's relevant to you guys is this. So I don't know if can you see this? Yeah, announcement. So this is what you guys want to be going with. Announcement re-final exam due 12:30 p.m. Wednesday, December 17th. Posted no later than a couple hours from now. Um, due to be submitted So that's what the deal is. And I don't mean to be unclear. And I know that's not the only thing in the direct chat. I know that's not the only, but are we, I know there's other questions in the direct chat, but on that question, let me go back. Is that, and I even understand that someone in the direct chat is asking me to change that. I might even think about that in a minute. But before I get to confusing people, is it clear? Hold on, let me just change the zoom and everything. Are we all clear right now of what the reality is right now? Okay, Gabriella, thank you. Is anybody, Sydney, thank you. Nadine, thank you. Okay. Okay, jjPHY203, thank you. Now, hold on. Um, Now there is a question about the substance of the exam. I do want to get to that. Hold on. Okay. Thank you guys. And again, for any of you who just was part of that dialogue in direct chat, especially if you've just told me that it is now clear and you're good, that's like really meaningful to me. So, submit for points for the closing the path, whatever, like that. Okay, now there is a request in the direct chat. Let me think about this for a minute. There's a request to adjust the timing. I'm hearing it. I'm taking it serious. I have mixed feelings about it. Let me just say for the moment, I hear you, the person who's requesting an adjustment on the timing. I hear you. I'm actually taking it seriously. I need to think about that I might even bear with me, okay? I'm going to think about it in the back of my mind while I do something else because I don't want to rabbit hole it, but I might. Um, but I also don't want to confuse people right now. So and you, person who's asking me about that, you can remind me again in like 10 minutes. If I haven't gotten back to that issue, you can gently remind me again, and I'll say a clear thing one way or the other about it, okay? But I have reasons that I have to be careful about that. Um, but it's fair to ask. Okay, so that's that. Now, someone now people are asking in the chat about like the substance of the exam. I want to be very clear about that. Um, because I left you hanging on some questions about because I know I put two exams, two possible past exams for you to look at and study. And I know you reviewed some of that material with Susan, with Professor Liu in the lab. Like I know. And the point of that was to be super prepared for like anything that could happen. Like, right. It's not, I don't have to tell you exactly what's going to be. You should be whatever, but I would like to be as clear as possible. And I know that some of that I know the two exams that were posted were very different, very different. So in principle, you do have to be prepared for anything that like happened in either of those past exams. Like you've had time to look at them. They're about all the material we've done since the last exam, blah, blah, blah. But yes, let me try to give you a little guidance right now. I can, and you may want to write this down or whatever. I mean, yeah, I mean, whoever's here, this is definitely a time to pay attention. I don't quite know how to write this. Also, I know we've got two boards going. One second, one second, one second. Why? Um, Wait, one of the boards is not going? Oh God, hold on one second, one second, one second, one second. Oh, right, because I did. Okay. Hold on. Okay. Okay. What you see on the board right now is the very last equation that I do want to get the very last equation of this term, which is not hard. You don't have to solve a million problems with it, but it is one last equation that I do want you to know before we end this course that I want you to know before the next course. So it is the kind of the last thing I want to say once we get past, and it's not hard, but it's something you need to know. And you won't have a million questions about it, but you will have a couple of questions about it. So just so you know, this is where we have to end today. So once I get all this, resolved, that's where this ship is heading, that equation. That's the last you just need to know it. But as far as what is on the final exam, I will tell you this right now. You will do two problems on the final exam. One of them, or you'll have two sections on the final exam, each worth 50 points, okay? One of the sections will indeed be like for sure, one of the sections will be that you will redo the problem that you personally did worse on the midterm. Like every one of you like will. And it would be the problem that you personally did worse on. So, and that answers one of the questions in the chat. So, and you should acknowledge in a second if this clarifies that. So I am promising you right now, for good or for bad, but just so that you can be clear, and you can also like start, well, whatever. One of the two problems, you're going to take the problem that you did worse on the midterm and you are going to treat that like it was a rough draft or it was like a first draft, and you're going to do a better draft, a revised draft of that problem from start to finish. Please hear this. I may have said this last week, but I'm saying it now like it's super important. Like even if the problem that you did worse on, you rocked, even if the problem you did worse on, you rocked and you like only lost 3 points or something, nonetheless, you're going to give me a whole new like copy of your work on that. Now, of course, that means you could be copying over a bunch, but you are going to copy over, if you see what I'm saying. You're going to pretend like that was a draft, and then you got feedback from me, and most of you did get like a lot of feedback from me, I think, and you had to wait a really long time for it. So you're going to take that feedback from me and you're going to use it to make a better draft from start to finish. Even the parts that you got right, you're going to do again. You're going to take the feedback from me and actually use it to lift the quality of the whole document. So even if there's answers where I was like, yes, that's good, if you're getting a theme from me throughout where I'm like, you need to show more work, or I need to see this explained in English, or like, where did this equation come from, or whatever, you're taking that as a general like guidance that in general, the whole thing needs to be that much more of a presentation, of an explanation, of a just, of a graphic portrayal of your understanding. So I'm not trying to be scary. I'm actually trying to be clear. And in a way, I think this is like a good assignment for many of you. Anywhere that you got it wrong, hopefully, like I sort of told you where how you got it wrong or whatever, and you're going to fix that, right, and redo it. But anywhere, even if you got it right, you're going to make it better. Like you're going to make the whole thing that much clearer and more inviting and easier to grade quickly. Like make it as like in some cases, some of you like rocked a lot of stuff, but it was just like so small and so squeezed together that it makes for extra effort on the part of the reader, which then slows the process down. Blah blah. You want like you get what I'm saying. So all of you, half of your exam is going to be that you're just going to rock. You're going to rock the problem that you did worse on now that you have all this feedback and all this time, and you're going to redo it from start to finish. And you are going to also, so you're going to submit that copy. I hope this is clear that it's a fresh new copy. You're not just doing test corrections. You're doing a whole new draft. Again, so that all of the work that you put in the first place and all of the patience that you demonstrated waiting for this thing, all like is worth it. Like, you're actually going to improve substantially in your physics understanding through that. So wait, so half the exam for all of you is that. Also, the exam instructions will make it clear that you should also um, submit along with that at least the last page or some evidence from the other problem, just to make it clear to me that indeed you're giving me your worst problem. Like somehow make that clear that really this is the worst problem that you're re-giving me. But so that's half your exam right there. That's a promise. Can I pause for a second and ask, is that clear to everybody that that's how, like, so in other words, you could start doing that right now if you wanted to. Like, I mean, don't do it in the middle of class, but like that. Okay. Thank you. Who's that? Okay. That's a lot of people. Okay. Thank you, Lunar. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you. Okay. So that's that. Um, and for sure, like 5-step method, right? Like okay, yeah. So I showed you that last time, like 5-step method, 5-step method, whenever in doubt, 5-step method. Okay, so that's that. Now, the other part of the exam will be the newer material, the material you did since the midterm. Could include anything about forces, free body diagrams, Newton's laws, um, inclined planes, then energy, work, springs, all of that stuff is covered in the other half of the exam. Now, that could be, this is where some of the chat questions are coming in. It could be like an examination of inclined planes from two different frames of reference, as one of those past exams was like really drilled down on, right? One of those past exams, we drilled down on, can you analyze an inclined plane from more than one perspective, i.e., Galileo's principle of relativity. Like, it's a real drill down. One of those problems that you saw is a real drill down that's really trying to show you why we do the surprising thing of breaking up gravity, which really does confuse a lot of people. It's very surprising to a lot of people that we take this vertical force of gravity and we treat it like a hypotenuse and break it up into mg sine and mg cos. Now, we're allowed to look at the reason we do that is because we're looking at the problem from this perspective. We're tilting our heads and lining up the x-axis along with the plane. I mean, I'm talking about lab 5 here, right? And so we're saying this is our x-axis. So if gravity is straight down, that looks like it's directly along the y-axis. But if we tilt our head and we make this the x-axis because this is the direction of acceleration, then it turns out gravity is not along the x-axis. So we break up gravity. Now, the reason we're allowed to do that is Galileo's principle of relativity, that the laws of physics are the same, whatever coordinate system you're in, whatever reference frame, whatever perspective you're in, the laws are still the laws. Galileo says the laws are not based on perspective, or put another way, that perspective really matters in physics. It says that we're allowed to do that, but it turns out a big thrust of physics, a big thing that makes physics different from just raw math, is that it's not just that we get to choose our perspective in physics. It's that, in fact, we must always choose a perspective in physics. One of the lessons that you're trying to learn in the midterm and the final, we're trying to get you to see that, in fact, a lot of things in physics are about perspective. And so you actually have no choice but to consciously choose what perspective you're in at any time. Like, if you don't choose to tilt your head, and line up the x-axis with the inclined plane, then you are choosing, whether you know it or not, to line the x-axis up with the table. One way or another, you're making a choice, and then you have to stick with it. And it turns out, to cut to the chase, it turns out that some choices that might be surprising at first, like tilting your head, actually lead to a lot less mathematical computation than others. The bottom line behind that whole example, in one of your two practice exams, right? The bottom line behind that is, if you do the thing that seems easier of not tilting your head, if you just keep the coordinate system like this and say, this is my x-axis and this is my y-axis, and I don't tilt my head and I don't break up gravity, then it turns out you actually have a lot more to break up. You have a lot more, and you have a lot more sines and cosines and a lot more math to do. So I'm going to get to that in a second. So one of those two exams is trying to show that whichever perspective you use, they'll both get to the correct answer because the laws of physics are the same no matter what. However, one of them requires a lot less computation, and that's actually what we generally want in physics. Math is our language, but math is not our goal. So I might, in a minute, do more details about that one, because someone's asking me in the chat. Yeah, is that problem fair game for your final exam? For the other problem of your final exam? Yes, it is fair game. Your other problem in your exam could be a thing about inclined planes. It could involve you having to use Galileo's principle to see why what we did in the lab is actually an easier mathematical analysis than not tilting our head. Yes, that is fair game for the other problem in the final exam. What's also fair game for the other problem in the final exam, or the other part of the final exam, is questions about work, energy, and particularly springs, as you saw in one of the documents. One of the recent final exams had the other problem just be the very first homework from Physics 204. Like, so that we can get a jump start on it, because it's a transition problem. It's totally about the material that we've been doing for the last couple of weeks. Is that fair game? Yes, it is. Am I promising you right now, like which of those two questions is going to be on your final? I'm not promising. You do have to be prepared for either one. I mean, I know it's going to be in like two hours, but of course it's still take home and open universe and all of that. For the other half of your exam, the half where you're not redoing the midterm, you could be asked to solve any kind of problem about inclined planes or work and energy. And there could be a detail here and there, even about this last equation that I want to mention to you. It could be anything like that. It could be a combination of those. Here's the one last piece of, so just be prepared. And obviously you can use your notes and all that kind of stuff. But here's the one thing I want to say about that part of the exam. Um, Anywhere in there, in the other part. So again, let me just repeat again, especially for anybody who might have just joined, half of your exam, you are definitely redoing the weaker part of your midterm. And you're just going to town on that. You're making it as easy and clear for me to see your improved draft and of course enclose your old draft too, so I can, compare. But you're giving me a new draft of your worst problem of the midterm. That's half of your final, no matter what. The other half is some sort of examination. Sorry. And that absolutely five-step method, extensive explanation, all that stuff. The other half, wherever I'm asking you open-ended questions in that same way, like that you're used to, like if I'm like calculate the acceleration of this or calculate the force of that, wherever I do that, yeah, continue the five-step method and all that. However, I will tell you right now, if you, on the second half of the exam, if and wherever you might see some short answer questions, if you see something that's a multiple choice or a true false or something like that, if you see questions like that in the second half that are meant to make your life a little bit less stressful now and my life a little bit less stressful and meant to make these things easier to turn around fast, if you see anything like that, like a short answer question, then you don't have to show five-step method. If there's a multiple choice or a true false question, you can literally, as long as it's clear what the question, as long as you make the question clear, you can literally just answer it. If, for example, if the exam gives you a link to a Google form to do that, to do part of it, follow the link, do the Google form, and you can trust that at that point, for good or for bad, you don't have to show work. You can't show work on that stuff. So it may be that this stuff about inclined planes or energy or work or springs, whatever that stuff, you might be to some extent asked in a short way. And if so, just embrace it. I mean, just be really careful with your answers, obviously, because then because the trade-off is you don't have to show any work there. You're showing tons of work in the other half of the exam. You don't have to show any work there. You can't show any work there, but at the same time, you can't get any partial credit, right? So it's a trade-off. That's why we're not doing the whole thing that way. That's why we don't generally do the whole thing that way. Last thing I'm going to say, and then I'm going to shut up about all this. On the final exam, no matter what, I do have to warn you on the final exam, because again, the midterms took so long and that's to your disadvantage. And like on the final exam, no matter what happens, what you'll get is fair grading, of course. And everywhere there's five-step method, you'll get tons of partial credit and all that kind of stuff. And in fact, honestly, secretly, what I'm fantasizing for you is that on the part of the exam where you redo the midterm, I'm like hoping that you rock it so much that each one of you just sort of guarantees yourself a 50 out of 50 on that part. Like it would be easier on you, and I mean, it'd be better for you and easier on me. And so that's certainly a possibility but where I'm going with this is what you're not going to get on the final exam is feedback, because we're done with the core. Okay, we can always schedule a meeting later to talk about it or to prepare you for Physics 204, all that stuff. And again, for those people who joined late, if you really have any issue with your grade or anything like that, you'll have an opportunity before the grade is posted to reach out to me, and we'll figure it. But you're not literally going to get suggestions for how to improve in Physics 203, because because the plane is about to land. Okay, now, having said all that, okay, no problem. I see the chat. Having said all that, it was 10:04. Anything, again, once I stop with the logistics, anything I say for the rest of this period is really about, one way or another, is about the second half of the exam, is meant to, one way or another, to help you with the new part of the exam that isn't the old material. So I promise you that. Um, so wait, okay, so I'm looking in the chat. Hold on. Oh no, right. So wait a minute. Wait. Wait. Oh, okay. Wait. We got to make sure this is clear. I mean, these are all fair questions, but yeah, let's make sure this is clear. So someone's asking in the chat, they're confused about the correction of the midterm. They say, let's say I lost more points in section one on a certain question overall. Should I redo the whole section or just that question? No, the whole thing, definitely. Like what I'm saying is, and I will check with, I'm going to change the view on the screen so I can really make sure this is clear to, hold on. What I'm saying to all of you, what I'm saying to all of you is on the midterm, unless I'm misremembering, there was two problems. You got to choose two problems like out of four. Yeah, you were given four problems on the midterm, you chose two. So you submitted two problems on the midterm, like 50 points for one and 50 points for the other. I am saying that you are fully redoing one of those two problems, no matter what, like all the parts, no matter whichever of those two problems you got a lower score on out of 50 or whichever of those two problems, those two big problem types, whichever one that you lost, that you got more total points deducted on, you are redoing the whole thing, including the parts that you didn't lose credit on. If you didn't lose credit on certain parts, at worst, you're like recopying them and including them. Like you're making a new draft of the, you're treating the old thing like it was a first draft and now you're giving me a new draft of that entire thing, all of the parts. So we're not comparing part by part. We're saying whichever of the two problems you did worse on, you're going to redo that, all of the parts. And any part that you already did fine on, yeah, at the very least you're recopying. But again, but my suggestion is you're making it even better. Like if it was correct, but not super expansive, or it was correct, but it didn't have a diagram, or it was correct, but you could have made your handwriting bigger and you could have used more than one color, or you could have added more English, or you understand the nuances better now. Like you're making it better. Like literally, you're treating this like that was a draft and this is a better copy that you're trying to like, now submit to a journal or whatever. And that's part of the idea too, is to view these problems as one big coherent presentation. Like if you notice, most of the problems, they start you from a certain premise and then they work their way through a bunch of questions until they get to a big conclusion. Like that's how you're trying to present it. Wait, okay, I, so wait a minute. So for, the person who's, yeah. Well, I was about to say, is that clear? Except I think the person who asked me that just lost their Wi-Fi, so I don't know. But um, someone now, I'm waiting till that person comes back. Hold on 1 second, and this is getting a little. That was clear, even though you lost. Okay, you're clear. Okay, now the other person just said, well, all this information for the final be posted on Classroom. I believe it is. I mean, I believe what I'm saying now is said in the instructions for the final exam. I believe it is, but I will tell you, one of the reasons we're talking about it now is I can tell that like even sort of when I say it, it doesn't mean it's as clear to you as it is to me. I think I say it in the final exam, but I'll even admit to you that in the past when I've done this, even when I think I say in the final exam, some people still don't totally get it. I mean, so I would say I do want to land this. I mean, we've got a half hour left. I'm not trying to be weird, but I mean, once you open your exam, if you do have a question about the instructions, or like if you have a legitimate, like I could do it this way, or I could do it this way, I really don't know which one Yavr Brown means, like reach out and ask me, privately, and I'll try to answer. I can't help you with the material, but I can help you clarify instructions. I would say that when it comes to this part of the exam, like you want to err on the side of overdoing it, not underdoing it. That's sort of the point. I mean, we've spent so much time on whatever on this midterm stuff. Like, you take it that way. It's kind of like the big project of this class is really learning how to nail a problem in physics in a big way from beginning to start. It's how we're trying to learn how to view a problem in physics as, as like an essay or like as a presentation unto itself, as a mini proof, not just as, like a blue book computation. So if you have any doubt in your mind, I'm not trying to make it harder, but yeah, I am trying to, you want to go the more thorough, more extensive, expansive route. Okay. Yeah, now, okay, wait, okay. I'm still seeing the chat. I'm just watching the clock too. Okay, okay, I see the chat before I get to any new questions in the chat, and I may have to cut them off at some point. Maybe I don't really want to cut them off, but before I get back to the chat, is what I'm saying now about the basic exam, the substance expectations. Please again raise your electronic hand if if they seem basically clear to you. Thank you, Nadine. Thank you, George. It's not a lot. Oh, okay. Okay, that's a lot. Thank you, Sydney. Thank you, Angelina. Okay. And yeah, it'll be posted to the okay. And now, is Gabrielle? Is that or you're just you're saying yes, or that's okay. Thank you. Now, okay, wait. Now, as far as timing, yes, I want to move on. As far as timing, wait, what day will it be due Wednesday? Wait, okay. What I believe it says, so now there's questions in the chat about timing. I believe what it says, and it says it for a reason. I believe that it's due at 12:30 p.m. on Wednesday. Yes, not 9:25 a.m. What I believe it says is it's due at 12:30 p.m. And it says that for a reason because technically your final exam slot is 10:30 to 12:30 on Wednesday. So we're making it do as though you walked into the building and just took an exam, right? Like, in other words, that would therefore mean that you're not in conflict with your other classes. Right. So even though, again, yes, it is take home, it's open unit, all that. So stop me if what I believe it says is that it's due. What I believe the announcement says that we screenshotted in this video, like you rewatch this video, we screen shared it. I know people are coming in and out and having Wi-Fi problems, but like it's in the announcement for the final exam. I believe it says that it's due 12:30 p.m. Um, And there's a question, what day will it be due Wednesday? You mean what time will it be due Wednesday? So Angel, since you're public, if you don't mind, I'm using your name since you're public. So I think you mean what time will it be due Wednesday? And the answer right now that it says is 12 or is 12:30. I keep saying 12:25. Is 12:30 p.m. Wednesday. Is that I don't want to go on until because by the way, we do have to be strict about whatever we say. You don't want to be late with this. If there's something that's going on in your family or something, then you're going to reach out and let me know. And like we can talk about it, but you can't like just be late, without communication. So wait, I don't mean to call anybody out personally, but Angel, since you are public in the public chat, did I answer is your question answered? Yeah, okay, great. Thank you. Okay, now, okay. Here's the deal. It's 10:15. What I want to give you is 25 minutes of substance of like physics, like last minute physics that is meant to tie some ends together and help you for the second part of the exam. That's still my goal. However, and I'm going to do that for like 20 minutes. However, if it's all clear, if it's I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying this is like welcome to physics, right? It's not easy, but it is simple, hopefully, right? Anyway, hopefully this is clear. It doesn't mean your job is a joke, but hopefully your job is clear and my job is clear. And again, let me remind you, again, we are in this together. I'm not being cheesy. I mean, I am being cheesy, but I'm not trying to be cheesy. I'm reminding you that so that you know whatever hard work you want to put into this exam from here on in or into finishing this course, you're 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 not fighting one another for a limited number of A's. I'm not saying everybody's going to get an A. Not everybody is going to get an A, but there isn't a limit to how many A's there could be. It's not a sum zero game. You don't get an A by squeezing somebody else out. Your chance of getting an A is higher if you actually spend some time helping each other. Because the more you explain stuff to other people, whoever you are, when you stop and try to explain things to other people, 9 times out of 10, you end up benefiting and getting more clear on the material, more even than they do. So you're not competing with one another in these last few days, please. And you're not competing against me. It doesn't mean we're all guaranteed to win, but it does mean that what we're competing against is our weaker selves and the universe. We're not even doing that, but you know what I'm saying? Okay, I just want to remind you of that because even as I start sounding stressed about this, it's only because I'm just as stressed as you about wanting you to do well. And the way to do well is to just lean in and try to do the work. Like once you go to this exam, forget about all the outcomes and the grades and all that. Just take the work really seriously and trust that if you take the work really seriously, the outcomes will take care of themselves. The grading system is designed for that, to reward people that really lean into the details of the physics process. Now, having said all that, if it is clear, okay, okay, I see what you, having said all that though, there is a question in the chat, which I'm willing to honor for 2 minutes. I made the exam due at 12:25 for a reason, but a number of you are saying you'd rather have it due at midnight that night. Now, I don't want to cause more confusion and I don't want to like disrupt, I don't want to upset the apple cart, but actually, I'm willing to entertain that for a moment. Um, I will tell you right now, I'm willing to entertain that it be due at midnight on Wednesday rather than 12:30. However, and we're not going to spend a long this is what we're going to do. But if we did that, it would mean I would post it later, not to be arbitrary, but I'd post later because then that would actually give me more time to make it more clear and easier for you to do, frankly. Like I could use the time to make it clearer. In other words, if you would rather it be posted later today, not as late as midnight, but if you'd rather be posted later today rather than 12:30, but then you have till midnight on Wednesday, I could entertain that. But two things that means if you have another exam, Wednesday night, like that means it could potentially conflict with some other responsibility you have Wednesday night. I don't know. And that's what I was trying to avoid before. Um, but I would entertain posting this thing a little bit later, a little bit like this afternoon, whatever, like early evening rather than 12:30 and giving you to midnight if that's what you want. But here's how we're going to do this. Here's how we're going to do this because I don't want to spend much more time on this right now. Wait, first of all, just raise your hand if you hear me raising that possibility. Raise your hand if you hear that possibility is being raised. Okay. Then what I want to do right now, hold on, unless I actually have an app for this. Hold on. I don't want to have a public vote or a public discussion about this. What I want, hold on 1 second. Yeah, hold on if I can do. Okay. I want, and I'm serious about this. Don't put anything in the public chat. I don't want anybody to shame anybody or mess with anybody's minds. Right now, in the private chat only, in the private chat, say something quick like I'd be willing to have if you want if you want it to be due at midnight of Wednesday and you're willing to mean that to wait a little bit longer for it, put that in the private chat. Just somehow just put it clear. But if not, if you'd rather keep it the way it is, put that clear in the private chat. And I'm not saying this is a democracy. I'm just going to look at the data to make a decision. Okay. Like, and if it's really split, I'm going to leave it the way I'm going to err on the side of leaving it the way it is because I don't want to mess with people's minds. But if there's like an overwhelming support for changing it, I'll consider. So right now, quickly in the private chat, say if you want to wait, look, okay, wait, I'm looking. Okay. Okay, and last thing I'm going to do is 10:20. We have enough time. Last thing I want to do, please, whoever you are, make sure you say something in the private chat. I do not want quieter people to be oppressed by that. I'm serious. Like, so even if you don't care, if you honestly don't care, put that in the private chat or just something to acknowledge that you heard that this is happening and you're not just being steamrolled. If I want everybody to put something in the private chat so that nobody is literally because you have the right. I mean, I put it a certain way. I'm not going to change this unless I really feel like it's a group. Okay, I'm looking. So it does look like everybody's in the chat. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. I think everybody did. Everybody did put something in the chat. I'm pretty sure. I'm okay. And I'm going to tell you honestly. There were two people, I'm not going to name names. There were two people that said like they honestly didn't care. There was like one or two people that at first said they won't wanted to keep it, but then they apparently changed their mind. Like I hope of their own, maybe they realized something or they remembered something. Hopefully it wasn't influence for other people. So I will tell you that there's nobody in the direct chat that is saying they actively want to keep it the way it is. Therefore, and I hope then okay. I will change it right now, so it's going to be. I'm going to post a little bit later. I'm not going to post at midnight. I will post later. I will move as fast as I can. I'm going to try to make it as workable for you as possible. And again, if there's a Google form involved or something, just follow that link. Do the Google form. Just take it. Be really careful. Then just remember, no matter what, this is true. No matter what, if there's any short answer part, there's no partial credit or anything like that. So just go to town to garner as many points as you can in the other thing. And is it possible for you to get a perfect score in the redo of the midterm? Yes, it's totally possible at this point for you to get a perfect score in the redo. So okay, we're all on the same page. I'm going to change in Google Classroom right now. I'm going to shut up. Thank you for okay, I'm changing it right now so it's clear. And anybody who wasn't, well, anyway, okay. Okay, I'm changing it. And I'm saying I'm giving myself no later than well, okay. Do Okay, it's now okay. Okay, thank you. You've all been very all right. And again, I hope this is all in the spirit that we're all just trying to make this. Okay, thank you all. So it's just changed. It's now, it'll be due at midnight Wednesday. Okay, now here's a summary of this course that is meant to help you on the second part of the exam. Okay, what I'm telling you now, I've seen enough of your work. You know how to do mathematical computations. For the most part, a lot of the math is not the hard part. Integrals are hard. We're going to do a lot more about the integrals and stuff like that next semester. But even there, if you have a responsibility toward an integral or something on this exam, the hard part is knowing when to set it up and what it means and why work in physics is an example of an integral. You'll never on this exam or you'll never on this exam have to do something like U substitution or integration by parts or you won't have to do integration by parts or anything like that. The hard issue is like what does an integral mean or what does a derivative mean? That's as hard as the math gets right now. In other words, the concepts. What's the underlying concept behind physics that allows you to know how to set up a step 3 GDP for almost any problem? It really is. The thing that separates physics from math is Galileo's principle of relativity. What is really? This is I mean, physics is about motion through space and time. And even before we get to laws of how things move through space and time, where classical physics really begins in the late 16th century, early 17th century, is with the recognition that it's possible that the ground below our feet is actually moving, could actually be moving past the sun at like 65,000 miles per hour all the time, and yet we wouldn't sense it at all. The idea that we could be experiencing velocity all the time without sensing it is the fundamental recognition of physics that comes before we start generating the laws of physics that we use to set up the math of physics. The principle is like the way that it could even be possible, the way that, and I promise this is not a sidebar anymore. This is like my last speech, okay, for 15 minutes. And the point of this speech that I'm giving you is partly to review the material and give you tricks like for the, but because again, you might have some short answer questions. Okay, so this is to review the material and also to show you how we get to the very last, the point, the punchline of this review that I'm doing right now is that last equation that I want to leave you with. Okay, it's connected. This is not a sidebar. This is the point. So to review, the first form of Galileo's principle of relativity is, and you should know these things for the, even if you haven't written down, whatever, is that the laws of physics, whatever they are, whatever they're going to be, right? The principle of all principles, the principle that will never let you down if you write it down on any sort of problem in a physics situation, the principle of all principles is that whatever the laws are going to be, they're going to be the same. No matter what speed or direction you're going, as long as you're not changing your speed or direction. And that means they're going to be the same from any perspective. If a reference frame, a frame of reference means a coordinate system or a perspective held by somebody going at a certain speed and direction, whatever speed or direction that person's going and watching the world from, they're going to see the laws of physics unfold the same way as anybody else at any other speed or direction. So anybody in physics can always view themselves as sitting still and watching everything move past them, right? Anybody can take a first person player video game perspective on the world and view it as moving by them, and they're just as right. So the sun can view the earth as moving past it, or the earth can view the sun as moving past it. Either way, the laws of physics play out the same way, and more particularly, all experiments will play out according to the same laws. All experiments will play out to the same results, whether you do them on the sun or you do them on the earth, or you do them in a rocket ship going past the earth at 45,000 miles an hour, whatever. So in other words, form 2 is no experiment can be, so you want to know these things, obviously, can be performed or even designed to measure what you might call absolute or objective or like velocity of a single object. Now, again, for those of you who are this is all one principle. The principle is Galileo's principle. The principle is whatever the laws are going to be, they are. But there's all these different ways to say this principle. Each new chapter in physics, including through Physics 204, including into the 20th century with Einstein, each next discovery or topic of physics, I'm telling you, is an expansion or extension or unfolding of this principle. It's more and more details and applications of this idea, the idea that the earth could be moving and we wouldn't feel it at all. Why? Because motion doesn't change. Laws don't change from motion to motion. So the next way you can say that is this form number 2. Now, again, this is where like people lost points on their exam stuff. This is not a different principle. It's not a Galileo's second law or something. It's the second form of the same principle. This form says you can't do an experiment to find out how fast a thing is going. Now, what physics is all about? How fast things are going and in what direction? What the heck is this saying? It's saying there's no experiment you could ever do to find out whether the airplane is actually moving past the Earth or the airplane is still in the Earth is moving past it. You can always know about the relational motion between two objects, but if you're ever trying to be like, wait, right now, I see the clouds are moving, but I see the clouds going past the plane. But wait, like I just woke up, or train of thought, whatever. I just woke up. I can't tell actually what's actually going on. Is this plane actually moving in and of itself, or are the cloud, or it's still and the clouds are act? There is no actually, is what this says. Because any experiment you would do would, like, if you drop something in the plane, it's going to land on the floor directly beneath your hand, no matter what, because the laws of physics are all the same, no matter what. Therefore, every experiment ends in the same result. So you can't do an experiment to find out whether something is moving in and of itself. You can't. And that's not a technological point. It's like a logical point. Therefore, so that's form number two. Therefore, form number three, I'm watching the clock. Form number three says, well, if from here on in, we are now breaking with, we used to call like science, like natural philosophy. It used to be just all like thought about the world, but now we're like breaking as of Galileo and Newton, and we're developing this new thing that's not just called natural philosophy, but it's actually called physics or science, scientific method, experimental method, all that. We're now saying we are people that don't just think in our minds. We tether all of our thoughts and our concepts of truth to data, to observable, reproducible, new quantifiable results in the lab. Like that's the new thing as of the 17th century, right? So if we've just decided that you could never do an experiment to find out the absolute velocity of something, of one thing, then there ain't no meaning to the absolute velocity of one thing. So from now on, we say velocity is always a relation between two objects. I'm writing this in shorthand, like, and obviously there's different word, you have this in your notes with slightly different words. You can use slightly different, but the idea is from here on in, velocity is not something that a thing has. It is a relation that a thing bears to another thing. Boat and stream problem from midterm one. You can't just dive into that problem and start doing math. You have to declare, like, what perspective am I doing this problem from? And then every velocity you define in that problem, the boat and the bottle problem, you can't say like VB means velocity of boat. That literally doesn't mean anything in physics. It has to be that like VBW is the velocity of the boat relative to the water or whatever. Like everything has to have double subscripts on it, because from here on in, there's no such thing as a velocity of an object. There, you get my point, right? So that's form number three. Then form number, and you really have to use that in that problem. For example, the boat and street, or the bottle problem is all about really using that and making it clear that you know that and applying it. Then form number four is that, and this is where now problem one comes in from the midterm, every, say, two-dimensional problem, or three or four, whatever, but every two-dimensional problem is really two one-dimensional problems occurring independently yet simultaneously. All those little exercises, not all of them, but many of the exercises in problem one from the midterm, the thing that got shot off the roof of the building, that's a perfect example. Like you're doing all these equations and stuff, but you're treating the y-axis as a bunch of physics unto itself, and the x-axis as its own physics unto itself. And then at the end, you're putting them together by virtue of time. Why are we allowed to do that? Because of this. Because the laws of physics hold in each coordinate system, like if you switch from the X perspective to the Y perspective, the laws are still happening in the X perspective the same way they are in the Y. You have to make this clear. Otherwise, why are we even, I'll leave it at that. But this is that's an example of a form that's really relevant in problem one of the midterm. Also, really relevant to if you're the inclined plane, breaking up all the breaking up vector stuff is all about this. If you're breaking up gravity on the inclined plane, it's all about this. Then form number, so the more you can say that and tie it together, the better. Then form number 5 is when things really get numerical. Form number 5 is this. Now, you'll really know that you're really starting to get physics if you start seeing that everything I'm saying here is kind of the same, but kind of different. It's all the same idea, but it's being applied in more and more detailed ways. This, which is really, really relevant, again, to the boat and stream problem, to the, what are the other, to the frog, to the water problem with the frog and I don't even know what it's called, the last big problem on the midterm, like, it's all about this, that velocities add together from different frames of reference. I'll just leave it at that. But this is the mathematical way of saying if you have 3 different objects, which you do in at least 2 big problems on the midterm, the way to add the velocity vectors is add from one frame of reference to another, not within the same frame of reference. Now we're almost, that's form number 5. Then form number 6 is Newton's first law. And form number 7, we have like 4 minutes left. Form number 7 is Newton's third law. Newton's first law is saying whether you're sitting still or you're moving, either way, it's the same deal. You are not going to spontaneously change your velocity. That's what Newton's first law says. It's just as hard to get something to slow down as it is to speed it up or whatever, because there's no difference between zero velocity and non-zero velocity. It's all in the eye of the beholder. That's Galileo. And Newton's third law, if I push you, you push me back, it doesn't matter whether you look at it from my perspective or yours. A force is an interaction between 2 objects. Again, it's saying the same thing. What's form 8? Form 8 is energy is conserved. It doesn't matter. I'm almost, okay, we've got 3 minutes. Form number 8 is that energy is conserved, that it's one amount of energy, whether you look at it from a perspective of potential or from kinetic, that a mass going back and forth on a spring, it doesn't matter where it is, it always has the same amount of energy. And it doesn't matter whether you run the movie of it forward, going back and forth like this, or you run the movie backwards, you're going to see the same thing. Tick tock, tick tock. A mass on a spring has the same amount of energy, or a ball bouncing up and down against the ground, same amount of energy, no matter where it is. Doesn't matter what perspective you look at, the laws are applying. So what's the very last form for this class? With 2 minutes left, the very last form says this. I know we have 2 minutes left. It says, okay, so wait a second. If all of this is true, that Earth is not special, Earth is not actually sitting still at the center of the universe, with pulling things, if Earth is not special, sitting still at 0 at the center of the universe, why does Earth seem to pull at, why is there this special number 9.8? The one thing that seems to be an exception to everything we've said in the class is that everything falls to the ground at 9.8. Why, if the Earth is not special, if it's just another rock in the world, why is it pulling everything toward it at a certain rate? And the answer turns out to be because the Earth is not special. Because it turns out there's a thing called gravity. There's a thing called gravity that you've heard of in your life that applies to every bit of mass in the universe. And all you need to know is this: for any one bit of mass in the universe, whether it's Earth or the center of the sun or the center of the moon, for every bit of mass in the universe, it will automatically pull on every other bit of mass in the universe with a force that is directly proportional to the mass of each one, and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. In other words, the closer things are, the harder they pull on each other automatically, and the bigger they are, the harder they pull on things on each other automatically. You've heard of this before. The one thing I want you to know when this course ends in 1 minute and for next semester is this is universal. The capital G in here is just a number that's written on the front of the board you saw on the first page. It's just a number that you don't have to memorize, you'll always be given, but it's universal and it's just a constant of proportionality. It's saying no matter what you are in the world, if you're the earth, if you're a sun, if you're an electron, if you're a pocket comb, you are automatically pulling on. I don't know why. I'm just saying apparently it's true. I do know why, but we don't need to know why yet. I'm just saying it's apparently true that the Earth is so not special that even its ability to pull everything toward it is not an Earth property. It's a relation that exists between every bit of mass in the universe and every other bit of the mass in the universe. I know it's 1040. Every bit of mass in the universe automatically is there's a force called gravitation on every other bit of mass in the universe. The bigger each mass is, the bigger the force in newtons. The farther apart they are, squared, the smaller the force in newtons. In order to find out the force in newtons that any one thing exerts on any other thing, all you do is plug in the mass of one, multiply by the mass of the other, divide by the distance squared, and then multiply the whole thing by this constant that's given on the first page that you don't have to memorize. This constant, it's a very, very small constant. You multiply by the whole thing, the mass, and you see it's in newtons times meters squared divided by kilograms squared. The kilogram squared will cancel out. The meter squared will cancel out. You'll be left with the force in newtons. And evidently, according to Newton, everything in the universe pulls on everything this way. It's called gravity. It's what holds the universe together. And it's another demonstration that the Earth is not special. It's just a rock in the world, obeying the laws of the world. I can't wait to see you next semester. I can't wait to see how you rock the final exam. I will post it later tonight. You've been a lovely, lovely class. I can't wait to meet you in person. May the net force be with you on everything.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm turning
Have a
my
good one, Professor.
have a good one.
You have a good break.
Have a
Good
good
break,
yes,
yeah.
have a good break. Merry all holidays. Yes, thank you so much. See you. Yes, see you. Have a good, okay, awesome. Have a God break, even better. Okay, have a nice break. Thank you. You too.
Have a good break, Professor.
Thank you. You too. I appreciate it. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. Yes. Okay. I'm going to wait. Okay. Hold on. Wait. First of all, I'm not leaving, but I am turning off the recording. Hold on. I'm turning off the recording. Hold on. Thank you, everybody. I'm turning off the recording. Hold on.